Abstinence. Why practice it? Why is it good? That is what I'll give my take on here. First, what is abstinence? And yeah, I know you probably already know, but the 100% is one idiot watching who doesn't. Abstinence. To keep away from, not do, consume or partake in something, usually something with negative effects. So why practice it? Well, as already stated, it's usually done with something that has negative effects, but the people doing it evaluate as having more positives than negatives, or just can't stop. Like a drinker drinking to numb their pain, a drug addict too addicted to stop, a gamer gaming to escape a sorrowful life in the real world. But obviously not everyone who does those things overconsumes like that. So why fully stop? My answer to that is, what is it that separates humans from animals? To me, that is how we can step back and look objectively on things, and think if we should or not, unlike an animal guided only by its instinct. So, in this way of looking at things, someone who chooses to not just do all his instinct tells him to, and instead fights them, and only does what he decides he should after careful consideration, is less animalistic, less beastly, and stronger willed and better. Hence why practicing abstinence and moderate consumption is a better lifestyle choice than choosing to be someone who doesn't care, he just consumes, and overly so, at his own leisure, without a second thought, like nothing more than a mere primitive animal, incapable of deeper thought and only instinctual pleasure hunting. Someone who chooses to wait till marriage, someone who chooses to not smoke and or drink, someone who chooses to not wildly party, and someone who chooses to only eat unhealthy foods in moderation, is better, more respectable, and stronger than someone who chooses not to do those things. While it's mainly abstinence I talk about, moderate consumption is also a very good and important virtuous thing that has the same origin point as abstinence. And in this regard, abstinence is like climbing to the peak of a mountain, a hard, arduous journey with many troubles on the way, while someone who does only in moderation or has only climbed 80% of the mountain is still impressive, talented, and good. It's not as good as someone who climbed to the peak, conquered the mountain with their own raw skill and talent. One simple thing that has echoed throughout the ages, with very good reason, is that you should control your urges, not be controlled by them. Be strong and conquer them, instead of being conquered by them. Don't accept being weak and conquered by them. Train, rise, and fight against the enslavement of your own mind. Overconsumption only drives to bad and horrid things. Just do this simple experiment and think to yourself, who would you respect more? An alcoholic incapable of stopping themselves from drinking themselves drunk every day, or someone with the strength and discipline in themselves that they never even touch alcohol? To me, the answer seems pretty self-evident. Another one of the many things that give strength and respect from practicing abstinence is when being abstinent even when going through rough times, soberly facing it all with discipline, instead of falling to one's primal urges and instinctively becoming dependent on something, hoping it will get one through it easier, like a horrid angel cheering on one's downfall. Defeating one's own urges and having control over them in some extent is something one has to do if they wish to go far and become wealthy and successful. Someone who blows the entire paycheck on payday will never become wealthy or get far with such wasteful habits, just like throwing all the firewood in a campfire at once makes it burn bright, but only for a short time, and after you're left with only a dead campfire, useful for nothing, where instead you can choose to feed it slowly and methodically and brainfully, and make it last for way longer and be way more useful. And because of such, any logical person who wants to survive will feed it such slowly and methodically, instead of listening to their instinct, telling them to just throw everything on at once. Another point up in favor for abstinence is that those who don't practice abstinence or moderate consumption will at some point inevitably run into many problems that those who practice it would never run into, some of a more severe variety, like accidentally getting someone/themselves pregnant, developing an addiction, getting thrown in jail for stealing, or health problems from their unhealthy lifestyle choices, some of them of a less severe variety, like having less money, doing more things they later regret, less control over their own anger, and less satisfaction in things they do. When someone has, for lack of a better word, a dependency on something or has a strong need for something to feel functional, even if they don't necessarily want to be it, is usually a thing they derive lots of unhappiness from, wishing that they didn't need it. For this example, someone smoking to relieve stress from whatever pressures them in real life. If they then choose to start practicing abstinence, and after going through much strife and turmoil, battling that dependency, and then quitting, at the end of it, most people will be happier because they don't need such things to feel functional anymore, and because they saw they were able to do something so difficult that looked so impossible to them before. So why not just choose to practice abstinence? Train yourself to not give in to your own desires, and instead fight them. Become stronger, more respectable, healthier, more disciplined, more strong-willed, less beastly, less corruptible, happier and better, and be able to have pride in yourself for having an ability most don't have the discipline and strength to. Practice abstinence in moderation and consumption.